Alabama and Texas A&M, a colossal showdown in the SEC West. And this game has a lot of significance for Alabama, the future of this season, what it all means, and what makes college football the best regular season in sports. We're going to get into that. He's Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillispie. And before we do anything else, guys, we want you to be part of Bama Tailgate and the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. It's really easy to do. If you're a 5-star recruit, sign up. If you're a 4-star recruit, sign up. If you're a 1-star, we'll take you as well. It's really easy to do. Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hit the bell so you know when we're live. Well, I know you feel like you're a 5-star, Chad. I put myself in the 3-star range, but I'm a really hard worker.
Just don't ask my wife. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get into this game though. Alabama and Texas A&M. This one has so much significance. Both of these teams lost an out-of-conference regular season game. Texas A&M went to Miami and lost. They had the lead. They couldn't hold on. Alabama lost a game against Texas where they looked discombobulated. They've improved a lot since then. But 2:30 on Saturday at Kyle Field and College Station, one of these teams is going to win, and they're all of a sudden going to be the favorite to take the SEC West and go to Atlanta. One of these teams is going to lose, and all of a sudden their playoff hopes are dashed. I think that's what makes college football's regular season so significant, so different than every other one, that it's a playoff game, even though it's not really a playoff game.
Yeah, right. It is, but it isn't. Think of the weight that's on both sides of this, right? Like it's a seesaw. And if you're on the A&M side, A&M, remember they paid Jimbo Fisher 10 years, $75 million guaranteed. What do they have to show for it? Right?
Nothing.
Very, very little. They got basically nothing to show for it. Now, you look on the Alabama side. What's everybody harping on Alabama with this year? They don't look very good. It's not the same Alabama. The dynasty is crumbling. How many times in 8 years, Mick, have we heard that the dynasty is dead?
The coach even played a song this year. One of the head coaches even played
right.
a Taylor Swift song that was talking about dynasties.
Yeah, the popcorn guy. he was talking about some castles crumbling,
Yeah.
So you got two different sides here, and one side is trying to get to the point of where they paid their head coach to get them to, and that's A&M. And they haven't been. And guess what? They lose at home against Alabama. Odds are, even if they ran the table, a 2-loss Texas A&M champion in the SEC, probably not getting into the playoff. It would be close, but still probably not. You look on the Alabama side, same thing. 2-loss Alabama at least has threatened the playoff before, but the playoff has never had a 2-loss team. So they're fighting for the respect, the dynasty, all the credentials that they've earned since Nick Saban arrived in 2007. So that's where it's at with these two schools and universities. Two different reasons to be battling, but really one of them is going to take a big blow. And we haven't talked about this much this week, but Jimbo Fisher loses this game and all of a sudden is a 2-loss team at some point, knowing the way his track record runs, he's going to end up with a 3rd loss, maybe a 4th somewhere along the season.
You're throwing a couple more in there.
I mean, by the end of the year, that's what he does, right? He's a 3 or 4 loss coach. Like, is he on the hot seat after this weekend if he loses?
Yeah, look, there was the year that they had they lost the game and they ended up being the 5th team. What was that? Like, was that 2020, the short season when it was all SEC games? I know it was like one year they ended up 5th and they didn't get in and they were tied, but the rest of them have been kind of typical A&M type of seasons where he's almost like Mark Richt was at Georgia. Like they're always good, but you always feel like they're underachieving. But the problem is he's got this huge buyout. Now they got a lot of money there, but he's got a huge buyout. And are you really going to make that move on him? I get it. Like you felt like he was on the hot seat last year.
Well, this year he is. He is for sure. And they've got enough oil money in College Station to fund the U.S. economy. They could bail out Biden if they wanted to. I mean, it's unbelievable how much money they got up there or down there. But I think what you're talking about was 2021 when A&M surprised Alabama and beat them 41-38. Kyle Field, last second kick. It was the end of that year. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody I'm sure will say it in the comments, but I believe it was the end of that year. LSU, who wasn't very good, under Ed Orgeron went into Kyle Field and beat A&M. Or maybe it was in Baton Rouge, but I think
Right.
LSU is who screwed the end of that season up for them. But that's kind of where we're at with this game. Like, I don't think enough people realize how big of an impact this is, even though it's early October. These are two schools and universities focused on championships only. And if one of them, whoever loses, they're basically out as far as it goes. And for Alabama fans, that's uncharted water. For Texas A&M fans, that's just going to fuel the fire. There's going to be somebody new in College Station, I think, unless Jimbo somehow won out the rest of the year. I think this game's crucial for him.
Yeah. Well, look, if Alabama loses, and there's a lot of questions about Nick Saban. Alabama hasn't had one of these seasons where they've been out of it this early since maybe 2010, but even at 2 losses, they were still alive, right? So it was right? They lost the game against South Carolina. Then they
Alabama's never had 2 losses under Saban, though, going into November.
Going into the Iron Bowl.
Well, they did have 2 losses. Correct. So that's only happened in 2007. Alabama had 2 losses because that year Saban went, 7-6?
They stunk. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first year, Shula recovery year. In 2010, Alabama had 1 loss going into LSU and Baton Rouge as the defending champions, lost that game, then lost to Cam Newton in Tuscaloosa with Cam back that nobody wants to remember. That's a good show for the Iron Bowl week, by the way. What was worse, the Cam back or the kick six? Both
of them terrible.
Both suck, but yeah, good poll topic. And then last year, Alabama losing to LSU on the road before they hosted Auburn. So yeah, it's very, very rare that Alabama has 2 losses this early in the season. It would only be the second time under Nick Saban. So yeah, again, uncharted waters for Alabama, the team, the fans, the university. Just it would be a new situation if it were to arise on Saturday.
But the win, you get this win, and you feel like it propels you through the rest of the season, and maybe the next truly tough game would be at Auburn.
Yeah, I think if you flash back to 3 weeks ago, that the biggest ad revenue in the state of Alabama would have come from a suicide prevention line. The way Alabama looked against Texas, the way Alabama looked against South Florida. I mean, it was incredible how bad they looked. And even through the first half of the Ole Miss game, and people were just losing their minds because of how terrible it was. But you and I talked about it before the show that, hey, you win this game, you get Arkansas at home, obviously beatable. You get Tennessee at home. They're not the same Tennessee as last year.
Right.
You get a bye week. You get LSU at home. Both of those are revenge games. You get them both at home. Then you go on the road to Kentucky, which to me is the scariest game of all, other than, of course, the House of Horrors and the Iron Bowl at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But my point is you get through this one that's on the road, then you got 3 in a row with a bye week mixed in, 2 of those revenge games. Then you've built momentum going into November. That's why I think Alabama, this one could be a catalyst and propel them and back into a championship scenario and picture.
Yeah, let's hope so. Alabama, 2:30, Kyle Field against Texas A&M. The spread has slid all the way down to just 1, which is crazy. You don't see that a lot, Chad, with Alabama, where a spread starts at 7 and then it was like 4.5, and now all of a sudden it's 1. It may be even by the time that this game kicks.
The only thing I don't like is in the past when the spread has been that low or the spread has even flipped to where an Alabama team was an underdog, you heard about it and players were pissed off about it. And I haven't heard much about the spread this week and some of the reactions. And Saban will tell you that's an external factor, but in the meeting rooms, they use that as disrespect.
Oh, yeah.
They do. They've always done it. It's a disrespect element that they love to have. And so the fact that it's shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, I mean, the game's got me nervous for sure, but the line is not helping. And I think, honestly, the lack of attention to the line is also a little unsettling if you're Alabama.
Is that your lucky shirt you're wearing, a Yellowhammer bird shirt?
I try to mix it up. but I do love my yellow hammer, whether it's a shirt or a drink. So
Yeah.
I like both.
I'll meet you at Gillette's. All right. That's Chad and Mick. Hey, we're going to talk to you guys some more. And don't forget, Friday is the Tailgate show from the floor Bama, 5 to 7. You can watch it live or come by and see us if you're down in Perdido Key, Orange Beach. And if you're not part of the Tailgate, here's your invite.